I think the English attitude is that the rich ought to give their money to the poor and the poor ought to become richer. It's sharp contrast to America, where if you're poor, you look at a bright, gleaming Cadillac driving by and they say, let's work harder and buy one.
It, of course, is money, and there really does seem to be no shortage of it, at least in some pockets. This week, for instance, 30 Rolls-Royce silver spirits costing some £50,000 each will be delivered, not to Arabs, but to Englishmen and Scots and Irish and Welsh as well. And an Englishman has bought and paid for a £200,000 executive helicopter recently. And this week, some 400 Englishmen will spend some £20,000 between them, eating and drinking at just one of London's most expensive restaurants. That's £50 a head per meal. Now, in spite of the recession, capital transfer tax, capital gains tax, income tax and everything else done by successive chancellors, government figures that were released only yesterday show that the rich are actually still getting richer. So, who are the big spenders? Where does their money come from? How do they keep it with the tax system being what it is? And what do they spend it on? Peter Bazalgette has been finding out.
More British people took foreign holidays last year than ever before. For big spenders, the first priority is pleasure. But they don't have to go abroad. Some find their pleasures nearer home. At this year's Earls Court Boat Show, it was the British who were spending most of the big money. The strong pound had driven the foreign buyers away. The most luxurious boats sold particularly well, like the Riva, the most expensive in the show at £250,000.
I'm pleased to say that business has been very good. We're unaffected really by the so-called recession because we're at the top end of the market. And the kind of clients that we'd be seeing would be mainly British people. We're selling boats to all manner of people, businessmen, peers of the realm, entrepreneurs. We see pop stars. And we even had an inquiry last year from a gentleman which might come to something this year. It's from Pentonville Prison, and he said that when he was out, he might buy a boat.
And businessmen who've made their money legitimately find the lure just as irresistible.
After seeing what's on board, everything is standard. Things such as washing machines, spin dryer, ice makers. It was really something that, well, I felt I had to buy once I'd seen her.
How much did she cost you?
She was 175,000 without electronic gadgetry. So in total, she was 190,000 without tax.
That seems rather a lot of money to spend all in one go.
Yes, I suppose that's what I thought, actually, when I first found out how much it was. And I dismissed the idea, initially, but then I decided, well, if I've got the money to spend now, then why not spend it, and enjoy it.
How is it that businessmen, British businessmen, have got that sort of money?
I think it's money that it's genuine profits, but they're a bit worried about ploughing it back in the businesses at the moment, which is understandable. They haven't perhaps got the faith in their increasing their workforce at the moment, and they are spending it on their boats. They've worked for the money over the years, and they're buying their pleasures and enjoying their pleasures.
The whole equipment, as you see it here, with massage that hand-controlled to massage your body wherever you want to be massaged or washed, with the golden swan, with the solenoid touch button arrangement, your hand shower, which of course is detachable and pulls out to wash your hair wherever you are. Comme ça. That altogether cost £5,500.
Godfrey Bonsack encourages people to bathe in their wealth. With his latest electronic gadgetry, you can run the bath from your bedroom, or even by radiophone from your car. He's made his fortune by turning the smallest room into the largest room. Mr. Bonsack, some of your bathrooms can cost up to £10,000, and they're certainly extremely elaborate. It all seems rather a lot to go through for something, after all, you're just going to wash in.
Well, I hope you don't wash in it. I think what you ought to do is to enjoy yourself in my bath, and therefore the price is probably not so important. I really believe that you ought to have a good shower room next to your bathroom, clean yourself properly, set on the music, have your best drawings hanging on the wall, have a lovely warm bath, lie in it, look at all your possessions, have a telephone handy, a drink, and invite your friends or...
How many baths do you sell to English people a year?
Oh, I should say about 800 bathrooms. You see, the bath itself is not important.
And who are those 800 people?
Today, I should say it's professional classes more than anybody. It used to be people who were speculators or people who were very, very wealthy anyway. And you know, when you think 800 baths sounds a lot, but it isn't. There must be 50,000 people in England with an income over £100,000 a year.
While bathing, the affluent need their clothes attended to. The valet's motorised these days. Jeeves of Belgravia claim to be the premier valeting service, and they're the most expensive too. But they've never been more in demand. The elegant young man and woman about town intend to keep up appearances.
We deliver to all sorts of people, from lords, ladies, ambassadors, and ordinary working class girls who prefer their best clothes to come to us for a better treatment than normal cleaners. Everything from Sandra Rhodes, the White House, everything at that very high class, most clothes are. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello.
How are you?
Thank you very much.
The rag trade's in a slump, but a few designers are still making big profits by selling the most expensive dresses. Some people have a fatal weakness for them.
This one was made by Bill Gibb. It's an exclusive design. It cost over £800, and it's all hand done, I believe. And I wore it to the Ritz the first time ever. It was quite a swish, do. So that's my favourite, I think. I bought this jacket quite by chance. It's the other half of this Yves Saint Laurent skirt. I went window shopping in Bond Street, saw it, and the whole outfit cost me nearly £600, so pretty expensive day, I'm afraid.
Why do you spend so much money on your dresses?
I just love clothes. I adore them.
Do you enjoy actually spending money?
It isn't so much as spending money. It's the enjoyment of wearing them and feeling them. I mean, really good clothes. It just makes you feel so wonderful.
Do you like to look expensive?
Yes, I do. I like to look stylish. But I go to Shumi's 2 or 3 times a week. I have a manicure and hair set. Probably £2,000 a year.
£2,000 a year?
It must be, yes. Well, I have to, because what's the point of having beautiful clothes unless your hair is done properly? Last year, I treated myself to a short fur coat, which was very nice, and I enjoyed wearing it. But it felt so beautiful on that I decided this year to treat myself to a long one. And it was £15,000.
Could you say that again?
£15,000 from Harrods.
How did you feel when you signed a cheque over for £15,000?
You don't think about it. You can't. It's just part of your lifestyle, and that's it.
The Monte Cristo A, the most exclusive cigar in the world. Customers at Alfred Dunhill of St James's seem to enjoy seeing their money go up in smoke. At these prices, smoking can damage your wealth.
This is the most expensive cigar we carry. As you can see, it's a Monte Cristo. And a lovely smell. These run into about £7.80 each. £194 a box.
Who spends that amount of money on cigars?
People from all walks of life. We have lords, ladies, you name it, we've got it.
Are they English people?
95% of my customers are English.
Do you find that demand for cigars has been affected by the recession? Do you find people are buying less now than they were?
No, they buy more. between 50 and 60 of my regular clients spend 15,000 a year on cigars. People who come in they buy so maybe 2,000, 1,000, 500, and we keep them, we lay them down, and each client has a cabinet, may have 5 cabinets. Depends on how many cigars he buys. There's always money for enjoyment, and this is part of their enjoyment.
Who has the sort of money to lead a life in which enjoyment is the sole pursuit? Well, they won't be getting a regular pay slip with national insurance, pension contributions and PAYE all neatly tabulated. They'll almost certainly be people of independent means, people like Rupert Deen.
I thought that is fairly typical of a middle to aging bachelor in London. I actually get up quite early. I'm quite an early riser. I get up about 9:30. At least I consider that quite early. I then take a walk to get my newspapers. Have my breakfast, which is 1 cup of black coffee. I then have my working day, which is about 20 minutes on the telephone. My bath is a major feature in my life. It takes at least an hour. Well, then we have lunch, which is either jeans and a sweater in some bistro, or rather smarter in the city, or in a club, or whatever. If it's summer, in the summer there might be the test match on, or racing, or whatever. Evenings, well, it can vary. I mean, much the same as anybody else. Cinemas, theatre, dinner parties, on to wedges, tramps, Annabelles. My grandfather was a Dutch entrepreneur, and he managed to make quite a lot of money. And a little bit of the residue bounced off on me. He was in oil, and he was in the Dutch East Indies, Java and Sumatra as they were then. And he did very well. Unfortunately, he died very early, so I'm not nearly as rich as I ought to be.
But that was better news for your father then, wasn't it?
Well, Dad never worked, yes. Nor have I.
How is your money managed? I mean, how do you keep it all together? Why doesn't the Chancellor of the Exchequer get it all?
Well, he does seem to take a totally disproportionate amount of it, which I'm constantly fighting against. My accountant tries very hard.
But, I mean, do you yourself have financial interests? You don't just own a large amount of capital. What do you do with it?
Well, I have various businesses, various business interests. Some of them work, some of them don't.
How do you spend your year?
January I'm still shooting, and late February, March, I go to Gstaad, Verbier, Megève. I might get Aspen this year. I never tried that. I adore spring in England. I think March, April in England is wonderful. The flat opens, so I can concentrate on my racing. May, June I go to the south of France. I always go to the Monte Carlo Grand Prix, which I enjoy. I normally charter a yacht for that because it's the most comfortable and civilized way to see it. And it comes at a convenient time of the year to have a holiday. Back mid-June for Ascot and the early summer racing. Then we have a whole spate of things which I adore, like Wimbledon, the Open Golf Championship. Goodwood is at the end of July. Basically, after Goodwood, I think one has to disappear to foreign shores to get one's excitement. I'm very keen on racing. I've always had a few horses. I've got 3 or 4 at the moment, but only one that's racing. The rest are mares and foals and things. I adore horses, and I adore matching up the breeding and trying to get the right lines to link with the sire line and try and produce something good. To my mind, there's nothing more satisfying than producing an exceptional winner. There, how did you get it, Kevin?
You're okay, yeah. A bit worse,
Can you give me a check for your October wine account?
Certainly not. Michael's now, when are your horses going to come back, Michael?
No, I decided it's too expensive.
That fine jumper.
How much does it cost you a year?
It's costing, what, 6,000, 7,000 a year to keep a horse in training, I suppose, no?
Because by the time you've got all the entry fees,
Entry fees, travelling,
Jockeys.
There's not too much change out of 7,000 a year. But yes, it is expensive.
Likely a race.
Michael's looking uncomfortably healthy after that exercise.
I'm not going to do that again.
I did have what I suppose was called a full-time job. And it didn't really work out at all because working myself didn't seem to gel at all. And basically, work really interfered with my social life.
Are you one of what they call the idle rich?
Well, I wouldn't quite put it like that. Not that idle and not that rich, but somewhere between the two, yes.
Aren't you rich?
I'm rich compared to... I'm a lot richer than my Filipino maid, but I'm a great deal less rich than Robert Sangster. But yes, between the two, I suppose I'm rich.
Do you find that other people you meet are jealous of the fact you're able to lead the sort of life you are with the money you have?
No, I've never come across anyone who's jealous at all.
Do you ever meet people who have a lot less money than you?
Not if I can help it.
Does the recession that we hear so much about at the moment, does that affect you very much?
Speaking personally, the recession doesn't affect me at all because I'm not employed. So no, I can't say that it does. I mean, the state of the world markets at the moment, Wall Street's just gone through 1,000 points, which is all-time high. The London stock market's almost high. It's come back a tiny bit recently. The pound's very strong. So when I go abroad, and I spend 4 months of the year abroad, so in fact I'm better off, if anything.
The myth is that most of Britain's visible wealth is concentrated around London. Stockbroker belt, gin and jag set are phrases that conjure up the discreet charm of the home counties. But there are pockets of wealth throughout the country. In the northwest, as elsewhere, an Englishman's home is his status symbol. Nationally, estate agents can't get their hands on enough properties in the £100,000 bracket. Around Manchester, such houses are snapped up the moment they come on the market.
I think I can divide them into two categories. The rather more expensive one, probably a bit older. This is a good example. An Edwardian house. It might have 6 bedrooms, say, and 3 bathrooms. Probably a large garden, 4 acres or more. Whereas the other category is the rather more modern house in a row. Again, perhaps a little less accommodation than the other one, and a smaller garden, but it still might have a swimming pool and a sauna and what have you.
What sort of prices are we talking about, both for the older house and the newer type?
Well, for that, one is talking about could be 150,000, it might even be up to £200,000. And for this sort of house, probably 80,000, 90,000 pounds, although for one rather better appointed, it could go up to 150,000 pounds.
It sounds a lot of money. Are you doing good business? I mean, is business better now than it has been?
Business has been very much better than it has been. Last year, we sold probably 3 times as many of these sort of houses than we did the year before. Most people who are spending this money are people who've made their money recently, over the last 5 or 6 years. We've had people who've only seen it on the day of an auction and have turned up and bought the house and haven't even looked into the legal details.
At the heart of the northwest commuter belt, just south of Manchester, is Wilmslow. The local borough has the greatest concentration of highly rated houses of any council in the country. The garden without the swimming pool is the odd one out. Wilmslow has no ordinary high street. Whether it's French designer clothes for the children, leather luggage for the family's winter cruise, or objet d'art for the drawing room, they're all here. Every convenience for the ideal home. The local traders are cashing in on the spending power of the residents. The byword is luxury. So there's certainly no need to travel to Bond Street for the family's silver or the wife's fur coat. It's all here on their doorstep. Now they're opening a brand new showroom to sell one of the most coveted and exotic sports cars. Why should a dealer pick this month to expand?
2 reasons really, primarily. One, the Porsche cars Great Britain have increased their import of motor vehicles into the UK from 1,000 vehicles to approximately 2,200 vehicles. And secondly, we having now got a larger volume of sales, have had to bring our operation under one roof. Well, we plan to sell approximately 165 vehicles this year. The price range is from £10,000 up to £28,750. The 924 being the car starting at £10,000 and going on up to the 911 Turbo at £28,750.
Who are the people who can afford that sort of money?
Well, there are basically two types of people. One, we sell to the medical practice and primarily to dentists. And then there are the entrepreneurial type with his own small business. Clearly, a Porsche is not a need purchase because nobody needs a Porsche. Therefore, they must want the vehicle. And other than a house, which they will buy, a motor vehicle is probably the second largest purchase that they make. And clearly, like a house, it can be seen, and maybe it's a status symbol.
Mr. North, how much did this car cost you?
About £16,500.
Didn't that make rather a large hole in your bank balance?
Not in my personal bank balance, no, because it's run by my company.
Why did you buy it?
Well, I've always been mad on cars. I like nice things. This combines the two. It's relatively economical to run. It goes like shit off a shovel, and is great fun.
Don't other people think that you're rather rich when they see you in it? Doesn't it change their attitude to you?
I'm sure it does. Yes, some people think, oh yes, Peter North's doing frightfully well. Other people think it's a tart cart and they don't like me for it. But I don't think that matters very much.
One Manchester millionaire has made his fortune by persuading others to spend theirs in his nightclubs.
I enjoy it. I thoroughly enjoy it. I mean, I can't wait to get down to it. I can't wait to go in there, have a glass of wine, and talk to people and have a laugh. It's, in fact, really, the fantasy life has become my whole life. I've swallowed my own dream. You know, I'm now in my own dream world. But I know it. I know it's not truly real, though. But I'm always in it.
Hello, this is Peter Stringfellow. Is that you, Jeffrey? Over. Hello, Jeff. Look, my love, Lionel Blair's booked a whole big table in the club for this evening, for the Palladium one, and they want a cake. I think it's the This Is Your Life with one of the chaps that's on the staff. Okay, over.
Peter Stringfellow is the epitome of a self-made man. He started with his mother's radiogram in a Sheffield church hall. 20 years on, he owns two of Britain's most exclusive nightclubs, the Millionaire in Manchester and a new night spot in London called, with characteristic modesty, Stringfellows. He's the son of a Sheffield steelworker and left school at 16 determined to make it. The disco in a church hall led to a coffee bar. In 1964, he opened his first nightclub. He'd discovered an extraordinary flair for getting people to enjoy themselves at their own expense. He sold up at a healthy profit, left Sheffield and moved with his wife to Leeds, his next target. For the Stringfellows, the gamble paid off in a big way. By 1974, he'd conquered the city with two immensely successful clubs. These he sold to open in Manchester, where he now enjoys the feeling of sitting on £1 million that's all his own work.
How's it feel? I tell you what, it felt a lot better once when I was a kid and my mother told me she'd won the polls. I couldn't believe it. And she got £5.50 for a third dividend. I tell you what it has done. It's given me that feeling that, recognition. I like that. See, I like the recognition of success. All businessmen like recognition of success. Because otherwise, why bother? Why bother if you don't like people saying, God, he's a success?
Talking of success, I see you've got a family crest and a family motto on the wall. Tell me about that.
That was fun.
Well, we found the crest. It's a genuine one. And it was quite nice. But we had to make a motto. I mean, the motto didn't fit. So we made our own. So we decided on one. It was a combination. And I can't pronounce the Latin, but the proper interpretation is success is for the taking and love is earned. Now, that's how we've lived our life, you see. Let's be sure of this. You know, nothing's easy. You pay a price. You swap something for something else. And I've swapped an awful lot to be here. You know, I live and I will probably die in one of my nightclubs. All my friends are socialised. I've come from the nightclub business. You know, I don't see films, I don't watch television very much.
What do you like to spend money on yourself?
From a company point of view, and I think all all men are very same. I'm still the, you know, bigger toys. I've got a lovely car. I like cars. I don't go mad with cars. I like a nice car, you know. I like clothes.
How much did that leather suit you're wearing, how much did that cost?
This leather suit? You mean this cheap leather suit from Woolworths? No, this, it cost £300 odd. It was made for me. I deserve it. I've earned it. Yeah.
Does the fact you have a company help you spend more than you would be able to if you were on PAYE?
Yes.
How?
Well, I spend it for the company, but I enjoy what I'm spending for the company.
Well, how do you feel about your own image? I mean, here you are, a man of around 40, wearing a very tight leather suit, and you've got your hair permed in curls. Is that...
Well, this is the dream world. I'm stuck in it. I think I look fantastic.
At least you're not bald.
Can anybody be a millionaire? Can anybody become a millionaire now?
In England, yes. Oh, yes. I think it's all there. You could do it again. My way. I don't know how to do TV programs. I don't know how to sing.
You know how
proved
to work
it.
hard.
I don't know how to be an accountant, but I know what I'm doing. So if someone wants to start, you can. Don't start planning out that next year you're going to make X. Just go out, try it, enjoy it, and take it as it comes. 'Cause that's life as well, you see.
You're a wealthy man, you're a successful man. Is there anything left for you to aim at?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I want America.
What do you want to do in America?
I want to open a club there. Yeah. I think that I'd like to go to New York next. And that's the next thing. You say, but, oh, man, you can't go to New York. My God, they've got everything. Americans know. But I've heard this all the time. You can't go to London. Londoners know. You can't go to Manchester. You can't go to Leeds. You can't go to Sheffield. You can't go to the corner shop. You know, you can't go outside the door, darling. You might get your face dirty. It's, you know.
There is a lot of failure around at the moment. In a sense, there's a very bad recession. How does the recession affect you?
You do find that people will still come out because when you get so much thrown at you newspaper-wise, TV-wise about recession and depressions, eventually you're going to turn around and say, I want to have a good damn night out somewhere.
The minute you come through the Millionaire door, or Stringfellow's door, that's it. You're in another world. It's like the first breath has got to be kind of an affluent laughing gas. The minute you walk through that door, you've got to go, wow, this is great. And then you're finished. For the rest of the night, you can believe you're rich. You can believe your overdraft isn't there. You can believe the house is yours. You can believe the car's yours and belong to the company. Come and be a millionaire for the night. Recession or depression, people have money. Of course they can afford it. I mean, the wages and the salaries that people get now are the best they've ever got. I'm not talking about the poor people who haven't got jobs, got no business, but the ones who do have them are better paid than they've ever been.
Who are the sort of people who come here?
The well-off, mostly business people and good high earners.
How much does an average evening cost them?
If you're dining in the club, you're going to be paying a minimum of £25. You're going to be paying a minimum of £25 per head, minimum. And you can go up to spend £50 depending how you want to eat and drink.
What's the sort of person going to be doing if he's spending 50 to 80 quid then?
He's going to be dining on caviar to start with, and he's going to possibly drink Dom Pérignon or champagne later.
Have you found that the recession has affected the way your clientele spend in your club?
Not here, no. Not here, not at the club, no.
Why do you think that is? Why aren't the rich affected by the recession?
Well, the quotation I like to say, the people who've got it have always got it. Who can afford to spend it can always afford it. And they can afford it too.
Come here to the Millionaire?
Not as often as I'd like to because of work, but probably about twice a week.
How is it you actually afford to come here? What's your business?
Well, I work for one of the most successful model agencies in the Northwest, and therefore that enables me to be able to come to places like the Millionaire.
How is it you can afford to come to the Millionaire?
I can't afford to go.
Why do you come here?
Because I feel that I owe it to myself to enjoy myself when I've worked so hard. I mean, for example, I finished at 10:30 this evening.
Doing what?
I was teaching in the salon. I was teaching high school.
Sorry, what do you do?
I'm a hairdresser at the salon in Manchester. And I just feel as if I owe it to my own morale to enjoy myself after work.
My business is cleaning chemicals. We manufacture a range of cleaning equipment and materials. And at first, it was just a business thing. I came down with customers, and slowly I got to know people down here.
Has the recession affected you?
It's affected all businesses, but not us personally. We're trying very hard, and I'm still entertaining as much as I was before. Because when it gets a bit tight, you've got to try to do more.
Who are the people who are doing well at the moment?
People who are working hard, I think. In any time, I've had experience. The top 10% will always do well. So as long as you're in the top 10% of your particular business, you'll always do very well.
You clearly like to enjoy yourself. Do you spend right up to the hilt? I mean, does coming here mean you're spending more than you're saving?
Well, it's slightly different, as I said earlier, because obviously I'm on business, and a lot of my business is mixed with my social life. I can justify it because it's a legitimate expense in promoting my products throughout the UK and on export.
Some people accuse you of running an establishment that's rather in bad taste during a recession at a time of high unemployment.
Well, no one's actually said in my face, but if they did, I would say this. If you look at the recession in a kind of an economical war, a war at the present moment, and these are the frontline troops, not just the people you're speaking to tonight, Peter, the others. If you stop the fun in their life, we're never going to get out of this recession. These are the people who are saying, to the hell with the recession. And that's not bad. That's not immoral.
Why are they saying to hell with the recession? Why are they able to?
Because maybe they're not making as much money as they used to make, but they're making enough. As Paul says, they owe it to themselves. I enjoy it. I don't feel immoral. And this is very good champagne.
Mr. Hardman, you advise the wealthy on their tax problems. How can you ensure that they can afford the best champagne? I mean, what's the best way to build a fortune?
Well, clearly, you can't do it if you're on PAYE. What you have to do is to employ other people, have your own company, work 7 days a week, and put all your money in, and if the company's successful, you'll be wealthy.
So can we look at the advantages here, then,
Yes.
of having a company?
Yes, the company's income, of course, will be your income, effectively. Half of it will go in tax, and therefore you have, first of all, to try and reduce the tax burden. And you must take advantage of all the reliefs that the government allow. You can set off against your profits, the amount on which you pay tax, part of your factory, your machinery, your equipment, and so on, and therefore, by setting these items off in this way, pay less tax. You also get similar relief against your taxable profits for your stocks at the end of the year, a proportion of your stocks. So the taxman is contributing to your stocks and to your equipment and your machinery. Also, you use the company to pay your pension, to contribute towards your pension fund. And here again, the taxman is contributing towards your pension indirectly because the amounts are tax deductible. Also, of course, you will have your company car. And if it, as it will be, used for company business, then part of the cost of the car can come off your profit. So the taxman is indirectly contributing there. But of course, you'll use your car privately, so you'll be paying tax on the benefit from the use of the car. But there's a common misconception here. Many people think that all you've got to do is have the company buy the plane, buy racehorses, buy all the other yachts and boats and so on, and the taxman is contributing. He's not. In the rare cases where these are company expenses and used for company purposes, fine, the tax deductible. In the vast majority of cases, companies aren't buying the yachts and the racehorses. This just isn't happening.
Right, we've looked at earned income. Now, if this businessman sells what's obviously a successful company, you can have a lot of cash in his hand. What if he wants to pass it on to his children? Can we take a look at what the problems are if you're trying to pass on inherited wealth?
The problem here is capital transfer tax, because this is intended to take out from the wealthy people most of their wealth. And if they give it away or die and it goes to sons and daughters, then tax is going to be payable on it. And therefore, you have, in order to pass it on to your next generation, you have to take advantage of all the allowances and exemptions that the government built into the system. The first of these is the Children's Trust. You don't want to pass to young children assets before they grow in value because they're too young to enjoy them and deal with them properly, so you put them in trust. And these trusts can then hold the assets while they're growing in value, and they eventually can go to the children without any capital transfer tax to pay. Also, the second one we regard as we talk about it as the art of giving. The government allow you to give a certain amount each year, £2,000 a year, and the wife can give £2,000 and you can give your surplus income away. Anything over that, the clock starts ticking. And people on low amounts of wealth, comparatively speaking, once they have got more than £50,000, they're potentially liable to this particular tax.
What about then avoiding tax altogether? Is there a way you can do that?
The only way you can avoid this capital transfer tax altogether is to emigrate and move the centre of your life abroad. In fact, some years ago, quite a few of my clients decided to emigrate. They were fed up with the prospect of paying capital transfer tax, so they went to the Bahamas and Bermuda and Barbados and so on. But unfortunately, they soon found that the quality of life was more important than avoiding tax, because all they were doing was sitting on the beach in the Bahamas and going from cocktail party to cocktail party, and therefore soon came back to this country.
All right, so if you want to come back to the country, are there things you can buy, things that you can pass on, not cash, but other things?
Certainly. Again, the government encouraged certain sorts of assets to be built up. The government encouraged the forestry industry. And if you have forests or woodlands and you pass them on to the next generation, when you die, no tax is payable. You can defer the liability. And if you happen to have a historic house, a picture, work of art, again, provided the public can see it, they have access to the house, again, no tax is payable when you pass it on, and you can limit it in the meantime.
But if you're trying to keep your inherited wealth together, in other ways, I suppose, comes back to the company we've already looked at.
This is true. Again, you take advantage of the reliefs that the government build into the capital transfer tax system, and one of the most important of these is the family company. They allow you much flexibility in passing on the family company or family farm to the next generation. So we're back again to the family company.
Mr. Hardman, thank you very much.
Geoffrey Archer, you've made a fortune and lost it. You've made another fortune out of writing books. Do you think you could have done that without this two-tier tax system we have? On the one hand, PAYE, and on the other hand, Schedule D, where you can get certain concessions and advantages?
Well, authors, of course, are individually employed in the sense that they write their books and then are paid accordingly. And they, in many ways, don't have any influence on their income. The public decide totally whether they should have an income or not on how many books they buy.
Yes, but could you have made your second fortune had it not been for this differential tax system that there is between PAYE and Schedule D?
No.
No. Frank Field, you've written this new book even about poverty and inequality. How did you feel when you saw that sort of, what can only be described as conspicuous consumption to the point of extravagance from those people?
Well, I really wanted to make a distinction between two groups there. There was one example of those who inherit their wealth, and the taxman was explaining towards the very end how wealth is handed on, and most large fortunes today are inherited from fathers or from the wife's father, and they don't make it. There isn't that open society. We also saw the second side of people making money and building their way up from the bottom to the very top. But that raised some key moral questions. One of the people in the film, she talked about spending £2,000 a year, at least, on hairstyles or whatever she called it. Now, for some of my constituents, that's above their total level of income. And it does raise a very big question that this debate raises, and that is, should there be a relationship between the very top and the bottom? And if the relationship's wrong, can you change it and still have a society that works? Is it right that some people should, just on going to the hairdressers, spend more than other people have as a total income? I think you would know what my answer to that would be.
Geoffrey Archer,
well, I don't think anyone has the right to say how you should spend your money. I'm very critical of the programme itself, Jeremy, to be absolutely fair. I think you showed a very biased, one-sided show of people spending money. My own experience is there are a lot of wealthy people who run companies or have built up small empires who still work very, very hard indeed and employ a lot of people and make it possible for people to earn salaries and do a job.
But I'm sure Peter Stringfellow would be extremely annoyed if you suggested to him that he doesn't work very hard.
No,
he would say he has worked
doesn't
extremely hard to build up his particular business, which was a demonstration of a highly successful business.
But it was a pity it was a nightclub. A pity it wasn't something that was more constructive, because it gave an impression generally. Your programme gave an impression that all millionaires are frivolous, which is absolutely inaccurate.
Also, Frank Field, how many businessmen in your constituency over the last 20 years, that's Birkenhead, would you say have made not £1 million, but have become successful and rich?
None that I know, but that may be that I haven't found them, and it may be that those who quietly go away and build a business fortune are the sort that wouldn't want to parade what they've done in a television programme. There may be that sort of catch-22 situation.
Yes,
but let me take you back, Geoffrey. I wasn't saying that one should have the power to lay down how people spend their money.
No.
What I do find offensive is that some have so much money that they have the freedom to spend $2,000 on hairstyling in a year, when others have that for their total income. But what I want us to take our discussion on is to get your views about whether you would agree with me there's a difference in those who inherit and those who make, and our tax system should distinguish between those in the first place. And secondly, whether there is any guidelines that one ought to lay down in a society between the very top and the very bottom, given that nations survive because there's a sense of community about a nation. And if one has such extremes of affluence and poverty, in the end, if you can't do it for the reasons that I'd want to be done, the moral reasons for getting a more equal society, then I think you have to raise the question whether we can't survive as a society if there's those extremes, and therefore the very nation itself is put at stake.
Well, Geoffrey Archer, what would you do, in fact, if you wanted to differentiate between the idle rich who are living off unearned income and the man who's actually made his fortune himself? Do you think you can differentiate?
I don't think the House of Commons would find it possible to pass a law which differentiated between those two. I think that would be implausible. And I fear here that there is an honourable argument that says that if a man in his lifetime has built up a fortune, not doing nightclubs, shall we say, running a factory in the north of England and employing a lot of people, he has the right to leave that factory and its working to his family to continue after his death.
Yes, but in that case, do you have the right to leave the money that you've made from your books to your children, because you're not leaving anything productive to them, you're just going to leave a lot of money?
Yes, but I will be taxed heavily. I won't mind too much, I will have gone. I will have been taxed heavily on that. I don't see that the government should have 100%.
But as we learnt from the taxman, they won't get anywhere near that amount. And I think we do have to make the distinction that you are trying to make, Geoffrey, between those who almost create wealth in a productive way and those which we've called a frivolous way.
Yes.
And the basic fact we have as a nation is that we're still a trading nation, and half our food comes in the country, and something like, well, goodness knows what the percentages for raw materials. And I would have thought that in some senses the film was representative of what's happening to the wealth creation in our society, in that if you look at what's happening to our industrial base, it is shrinking, and one sees that in the national accounts. And what is worrying is that talent that can make wealth goes into this direction and not in other directions. But even if we accept that as some agreement between us, it again raises the question in a way that I found Geoffrey's arguments somewhat Marxist, in that people are very much governed by the money side of it. I mean, I find that the crude Marxist line that Marx himself pushed. And I think man is motivated by many other motives, and indeed Geoffrey touched on one. He talked about what he would be doing for his children, what he would be handing on. I think you can run a society where obviously people want incentives, and I'm not asking for a flat earth society, but one which does try and motivate people along other avenues, because they are adding to the country, they are proud of their country, they are adding their talents to the country. It doesn't mean to say they all want to get the same wage at the end of the day.
I wouldn't disagree with that, but I would ask you, how is it possible to define between the frivolous and the serious? And how could you ever say, look, you earn £1 million and you've built this factory and you now employ 17,000 people, and those 17,000 people are better off because of you, but actually now I'm in charge of government, I feel that we should stop you being a millionaire. We're sorry that that's the way it is, but we want to stop you being a millionaire. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to take your $1 million and divide it between those 17,000 or the whole country, or however it should be done. And we're sorry that, but that's the way I want it in my society, because the fact is, and I accept the fact is, that the low have no, there's a great difference between the very bottom and the very top. I do accept that, Frank, but how...
And it should be less, Geoffrey?
Oh, I think that a just and fair society is one that takes care of its old, those genuinely in need, and the young. The rest...
Well, then that's quite an indictment of our present society. And if one looks at the natural order of the world, nobody is 5 times taller and no one is 5 times more intelligent, and no one's 5 times better looking. You look at that part of the world which man has control over, and the differences are grotesque. And what I would like to see us having the sort of debate we're having now in the House of Commons. Now, you know from experience, we don't actually have this sort of
have a debate at that level
in the House of Commons, whether you could aim for a society which was...
But surely both
Can I
parties...
just ask you, you've used the word incentives. Do you actually think that it's the right people in society who get the incentives? And I think here, for instance, of people who are on this Schedule D and therefore have all sorts of tax advantages. For the most people are decision makers, people in charge of their own destiny, who have very considerable job satisfaction. They get a lot of incentives from the tax system. The chap on the factory floor, who's mostly got a rotten job, which is boring and absolutely essential to this nation, gets absolutely no incentives at all.
Well, if you take the crude economic theory on this, it tells you the people that do the boring, dirty jobs have to be paid a lot to do them. And those of us who have nice jobs, which have a great deal of satisfaction, we will actually get paid less. But man's world turns even that upside down. So I would have thought that there is a good question to be pursued here about to what extent can man govern these differentials?
Well, both sides of the House of Commons, I think, would want people to have a fairer deal. And let's face it, the common vote is not those 50,000 people who are described in your programme. It is the other 52 million people in this country, or 37 million people who can vote. And many things that came out in your programme, such as how many Porsches are sold, I mean, compared with America or France or Germany,
think that's right? I mean,
we're low on the score.
But do you actually think that's right, that a man should be able to buy what is effectively himself a perk, like a Porsche or like a yacht or anything else you care to think of, on his company? Is that an honourable thing to be able to do?
Jeremy, I thought what was interesting, the morality that came through when you were talking to the tax consultant, in that he very cleverly made out that it was a good thing to do because we were cheating the tax man. And I could have rephrased the question which you posed to me just now. In a sense, he was cheating, if cheating is the right word, those who are not allowed to claim the expenses and offset part of their expenditure against income. There isn't such a thing as the taxman. There isn't such a thing as the state. It's all of us. It's the community.
What you're really
and you have to weigh
there's
up.
an element of immorality. Is that what you're suggesting, that there is? An element of immorality in our attitude towards money and hanging on to what we consider to be ours?
There's certainly a class of people who think that to cheat the tax man is not cheating. I would accept that. But on your first point, Jeremy, no, I wouldn't agree with you. I think if a man goes out and earns £100, if he has earned that £100 and it is his, he can spend it on anything he likes, from the bingo hall to the horses to beer. If he goes out and earns £1,000, he can spend that £1,000 on whatever he likes.
But that's not...
Personally, I wouldn't want to spend £17,000 on a motor car. I would think it a total waste of money.
But that wasn't Jeremy's question.
Yes, it was. He said, was it immoral? Yes, it was, Frank. He said, was it immoral to spend the money that way?
No.
My answer is no, it isn't.
But if a man goes out to earn the £100, what the question was about, should he not have a first duty to pay his taxes and then spend it as he wants?
Yes, exactly.
The real problem is that increasingly one group of society needn't pay its taxes. If they do, it's almost a voluntary effort. And other of us have to, because we're caught in the PA or trapped in to the PAYE system, and there are major differences there. And those that have the tax concessions are also by and large those who on the large incomes, the high incomes to start with. So there's a reinforcing process, and the tax burden is in fact increased for those.
Yes. Many of the tax concessions create a movement of money, a movement of money that employs people and uses money, which...
But it sounds to me as if what you're both saying is you don't think that we've got it right in this country. Do you think that any other country has got it more nearly right than we have?
No, to be honest. I've looked at the American system fairly carefully, and of course they have, in a population of 250 million, they have 1 million millionaires. So they obviously have a much higher scale of very rich people. The French and Germans have a much higher scale of very rich people, so we couldn't really...